All right. So you're getting ready to take your business global. And Germany is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Smart move.
It's a great market.
Germany has a really strong economy.
Yep.
But there's something that trips a lot of people up.
Definitely.
And that is German labor laws.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it comes to severance pay.
That's real.
So today, we are going to deep dive into this.
Great.
Because it's often overlooked when you were thinking about global expansion.
For sure. For sure.
So you can approach it strategically and with confidence.
Absolutely.
So what's the deal with severance pay in Germany?
Severance pay in Germany, it's a lot more than just a cost consideration.
Right.
It's really tied into their culture of employee protection.
Okay.
So if you don't handle this carefully, you could run into a lot of issues. Legal issues damage your reputation, and it could really set your expansion plans back.
So give me the essentials. What are the must-knows about German severance pay?
Okay, well, the first thing you have to understand is that you can't even think about severance pay until you understand when and how you can dismiss an employee.
Got it.
So Germany has this law called the Kündigungsschutzgesetz, or KSG for short.
Oh, yeah, the KSG.
Exactly. I've heard of that. And this law is all about protecting employees.
Interesting. Okay, so what are the key points I need to know about KSG?
Basically, if your company has more than 5 employees and an employee has been working for you for over 6 months, they're covered under this law. And that means you can't just let them go without a very good reason.
What is a very good reason for dismissal in Germany?
Okay, so in Germany, there are 2 main types of dismissal. There's operational dismissals, and those are dismissals that are driven by business needs. Like, let's say you're downsizing or restructuring.
I see.
The other type of dismissal is person-related, and that has to do with the employee's conduct or their performance.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing. In either case, the burden of proof is on the employer.
Wow.
You need to have a documented, justifiable reason for letting someone go. And it has to be in writing.
Oh, wow.
No verbal warnings. No vague feelings of dissatisfaction.
Got it.
You have to be very clear about why you are letting this person go.
So even if you have a legitimate reason,
you
still need to handle it really carefully.
Yes. Definitely. And that's where the cultural aspect really comes into play. So German employment law isn't just about checking boxes and following the rules. It's about treating people fairly and with respect. So for example, let's say you're downsizing. Did you consider other positions within the company that the employee could fill? Did you take their age into account, or their family situation, their length of service?
These are all important.
All of these factors can come into play legally. But also in terms of how your company is seen.
How you're perceived.
Exactly.
Publicly. So it's not just about the law. It's also about how you are managing the people.
The human side of things.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The human side of things.
All right. Now, another thing that often catches businesses off guard is notice periods.
In Germany.
Yes. In Germany, they can be very long.
How long are we talking?
Okay. So there are a couple of exceptions where you don't have to give any notice. If the employee is in their probationary period, that's usually the first 6 months. Or if there's a case of really serious misconduct.
Like stealing or something.
Like theft. Then you don't need to provide notice.
I see.
But outside of those situations, things get really interesting.
Interesting in a good way or a bad way? Or like a scary way?
It depends on your perspective. Essentially, the longer an employee has been with the company, the longer the notice period they are entitled to. So, for example, if they've been with you for less than 2 years, it's 14 days. 2 to 4 years a month. 5 to 7 years, 2 months. Over 8 years, 3 months.
Wow.
And get this, if they've been with you for over 20 years, 7-month notice period.
7 months.
7 months.
Wow.
Right.
That's longer than some apartment leases I've had.
It really shows you how differently Germany looks at employee relationships compared to a lot of other countries. And here's another thing. These notice periods can be changed by collective bargaining agreements.
Oh, yeah, the CBAs?
Yes. So if your industry in Germany has a CBA, you need to know that. And you need to take that into account.
It sounds like having some expert guidance is really important here.
It's crucial.
Not just for the legal stuff, but also for understanding the culture.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we talked about dismissals.
Yes.
Notice periods. Let's get into the real nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
Calculating severance pay.
All right, let's talk numbers.
Okay.
So how is severance pay calculated in Germany? All right, so here's a key thing to remember.
Okay.
Severance pay is mandatory in Germany for operational dismissals.
Got it.
You have to pay it.
Okay.
For person-related dismissals, it depends.
Okay.
It might be required by those CBAs we were talking about.
Right.
Or there might be a specific agreement with the employee.
Got it. Yeah.
But for those operational dismissals, where the company is making the decision to let someone go, what's the formula?
Yeah, how do you actually calculate it?
So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
On the surface.
Okay.
You take 50% of the employee's 1 month's salary.
Okay.
And then you multiply that by the number of years they've been with the company.
So if someone's been with the company for 10 years, they would get 5 months of their salary as severance.
That's it.
Okay.
Seems pretty simple, right?
It does seem simple.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
German law loves its nuances.
Okay. So what do I need to be aware of?
So there are a couple of key factors that can make these calculations more complicated.
All right. I'm listening.
Two big ones to think about are the employee's age and their tenure with the company.
All right. So length of time with the company.
Exactly. These things influence the maximum amount of severance pay.
Oh, interesting.
That can be awarded.
Okay. So it's not as easy as just plugging in their years of service.
No.
And that's the number.
Not quite.
Okay.
For employees under 50, the maximum severance pay is capped at 12-month salary.
Okay.
Regardless of how long they've been with the company.
12 months.
Yeah.
Got it.
But if they're over 50 and they've been with you for at least 15 years,
the maximum jumps to 15-month salary.
Okay.
And if they're over 55 with more than 20 years of service, it goes up again to 18-month salary.
Wow. Okay.
Big difference.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, I guess.
Right.
The older someone is, the longer they've been with the company, the harder it's probably going to be to find a new job.
It's about giving them a safety net.
Right.
And acknowledging that it might be more challenging for them to find a new job.
At that point in their career.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why if you are expanding into Germany, you have to think about these costs.
Right from the beginning.
Right from the get-go.
Otherwise, you're in for a big surprise.
Big financial surprises.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And speaking of surprises, let's talk about what happens when an employee thinks they've been unjustly dismissed.
Okay.
Because in Germany, they have legal options. Yeah.
This is where things get a little complicated.
Sure.
It can.
So what can an employee do if they feel like they've been wronged?
In Germany, employees have 3 weeks after being dismissed to appeal the decision.
Okay.
They can go to court.
3 weeks?
Yep.
Wow.
And if the court sides with them, if they say, yeah, this dismissal was unjust, things can get really expensive for the employer.
Okay, so what are some examples of what a German court would consider an unjust dismissal?
There are a few common ones. So let's say you let someone go for performance issues.
Okay.
But you never documented those issues. You never offered them any extra training or try to help them improve.
Yeah.
That could be seen as unfair.
Okay.
Or let's say you're downsizing, but you didn't even consider whether the employee could fill another role in the company.
Right.
That could also work against you.
And what about those social considerations we talked about earlier?
Yes, exactly.
Like their age and stuff.
Failing to think about those things can also get you in a lot of trouble.
So even if you think you have a really good reason, if you don't handle it by the book.
It's not just about being legally in the right.
Okay.
It's about the whole process.
Okay.
A poorly handled dismissal, even if you have a good reason, can damage your company's reputation and cost you a lot of time and money.
In legal fees?
In legal battles, yes.
I mean, this all sounds like a really good argument for getting some help.
It is.
Expert help.
It is.
When you're navigating this stuff.
I completely agree. And that's something we at INS Global specialize in.
Oh, great.
We help businesses that are expanding into Germany and all over the world to make sure they're not just compliant, but they are culturally sensitive.
It's so important.
It is.
In their HR practices.
Absolutely. So if you are thinking about expanding into Germany, please reach out to us today
That's a great point.
to discuss your project.
So we've talked about the basics of dismissal laws.
Yes.
Notice periods, right? And it's clear there's a lot to think about.
Definitely.
So when we come back in part 2 of this deep dive, we are going to get into the really complicated stuff.
Sounds good.
Calculating severance pay.
Looking forward to it.
Including some of those lesser-known factors that can change the final number.
Right. Some interesting wrinkles we haven't even gotten to yet.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right. So we've covered those basics.
Yes.
We know the types of dismissals.
Right.
We know about those super long notice periods.
Yeah.
And we talked about the basic formula for severance pay.
Right.
So now I'm ready to get into some of those interesting wrinkles that you were talking about.
Okay.
What are some of the things that can trip people up?
Okay, so one thing that often causes confusion is what counts as salary.
Oh, yeah.
When you're calculating severance.
Yeah, I bet.
It's not always as simple as it sounds.
Here in the U.S., we have bonuses and commissions and stock options.
Yeah.
It can get really tricky to figure out what's included and what isn't.
Yeah, Germany has similar complexities.
Okay.
So obviously your regular salary is included.
Okay.
But then you have things like Christmas bonuses.
Right.
Or the 13th month payment.
Okay.
Which is pretty common in Germany. And those are usually factored in as well.
Okay, so those are basically guaranteed income.
They're pretty much guaranteed.
For most employees.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
But then you get into things like performance-based bonuses and commissions or benefits.
Yeah, company car, things like that.
Like a company car, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not those are included,
okay,
partially included or excluded entirely, really depends on the specifics of their contract.
So each employee's contract could be different.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And how consistently those types of compensation were paid.
I see. So you really need to understand all the details.
You have to look at the whole package.
Of their compensation.
The entire package.
And not just their base salary.
Yeah. Not just that base salary.
That's really important.
It is. And that's why having someone with that expertise in German employment law can be so valuable.
I bet.
They can make sure you're calculating everything correctly.
Right.
So you don't underpay.
Yeah.
Which could lead to legal problems.
Right.
Or overpay.
Oh, yeah.
Which could hurt your budget.
Yeah, so you could mess up in both directions.
You could. Right. It's a delicate balance.
So besides these compensation things, are there other unique situations?
Yes, there are.
That can affect these severance calculations?
Yes.
What else should we be aware of?
So, for example, if an employee is partially disabled, they have even more protections.
Oh, wow.
Under German law.
Really?
So the severance calculation might need to be adjusted.
So you can't use that same formula?
Not always.
Across the board?
It depends on the situation.
Got it.
Another situation that can come up is when a company goes bankrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Or becomes insolvent.
That's a good point.
So in Germany, if that happens, the responsibility for severance payments can actually shift to a government fund.
Wait, really?
Yes.
So even if the company goes under, employees are still protected?
In a way, yes. Germany takes its social safety net very seriously.
That's interesting.
The details can get complicated.
Okay.
But it's another example of how their system is designed to protect employees.
I'm starting to see.
Even in tough times.
Why so many companies just say,
I'm
going to work with experts because this is way too much to handle on my own.
Exactly. It's one thing to understand the basic concepts.
Yeah.
It's another to actually apply them in every situation.
Especially when you have employees with all different kinds of situations.
All different circumstances.
So for our listeners who are thinking,
okay,
this is way over my head, what do you recommend they do?
Well, one option is to partner with a company like INS Global. We help businesses navigate these tricky waters.
Awesome.
We have experts in Germany who know all about labor laws. They can handle everything.
Right.
From contracts to calculating those severance payments.
Sounds like a good deal.
So you can focus on running your business and growing your company.
Exactly.
And let the experts handle the HR stuff.
Yeah, it's like having your own German labor law team.
Exactly.
Without having to actually hire one.
Without all that cost and hassle.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about severance pay in Germany.
We have.
What's the key takeaway?
Okay, I think the most important thing to remember is that German labor law really favors the employee. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It creates a stable and fair work environment.
Totally.
But it does mean that you have to approach things differently.
Right. You can't just assume that the way you do things back home is going to work in Germany.
It's a different system.
You really need to be prepared
and
informed.
Yeah.
And ideally working with people who really know the system.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the culture.
Yeah.
Severance pay in Germany isn't just about the law. It's about respect.
Yeah, respecting your employees.
Showing respect for your employees.
Okay.
And understanding the impact of job loss on people.
So it's not just about...
It's not just about avoiding those fines.
Yeah, avoiding fines and lawsuits.
And lawsuits.
Yeah, which is important.
Which is important, of course.
But it's also about...
But it's also about doing the right thing.
Right. Being ethical.
Being ethical.
And building good relationships.
Building those strong relationships with your employees.
Okay, so now...
And in the long run, that's good for everyone.
I want to go back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Employees who think they've been unjustly dismissed.
Yeah.
And they decide to go to court.
Right.
What are their chances of actually winning?
That's a great question. And what are the consequences for the company?
Yeah.
If they lose?
What's the worst case scenario?
Stay tuned for part 3.
When we'll explore those very questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about how employees can take their case to court.
Right.
If they think they've been unjustly dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically,
yeah,
what are their chances of actually winning?
Well, it's not a sure thing.
Okay.
German courts try to be fair.
Yeah.
They weigh the employer's reasons for dismissal against the employee's rights and their situation.
So like those examples we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Not documenting performance issues.
Right. Or not looking at other positions within the company.
Right.
Those things can really hurt the company's case.
So it's not just about having a reason.
No, it's about the whole process.
Yeah, how they handled it.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Even if the court agrees the dismissal was justified.
Okay.
They might still say that the employer didn't handle it correctly.
Like maybe the notice period was wrong?
Oh.
Or the severance pay was too low.
Okay.
In these cases.
Yeah.
The employer could have to pay more money.
So even if they win.
Yeah.
They could still lose.
In a way, yes.
Financially.
Yes. It shows how important it is to keep good records.
Yeah.
Communicate clearly. And really understand German labor law.
And for the employee.
Yeah.
This means that
it might be worth talking to a lawyer.
Okay.
Even if they aren't sure if their dismissal was unfair.
Right.
A lawyer can help them understand the situation.
Yeah.
And maybe even get a better severance package.
So it's kind of a back and forth.
It is.
Both sides are trying to protect themselves.
Everyone's trying to get the best outcome.
For the employer, though, what happens if the court says, you were really in the wrong?
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, what's the worst case?
Well, the court could say, you have to rehire the employee.
That's definitely a possibility.
Wow.
Especially if the dismissal was done incorrectly.
That would be awkward.
It can be.
Having to rehire someone.
Yes, and then there's the money.
Right, the financial side.
The court could say, you have to pay back pay.
Oh, wow.
For the time the employee was out of work.
Okay.
And they could make the severance payment bigger.
And sometimes.
A lot bigger sometimes.
Bigger.
And in some cases, if it seems like the company was being mean or discriminatory, they might have to pay even more on top of that.
So the stakes are really high.
They are.
It's not just about a little bit of money?
No, this could be really serious.
Yeah.
Both for your finances and your reputation.
So it all comes back to what we've been saying, expanding into Germany.
Yeah.
You really have to understand the laws.
Yes. The legal and cultural landscape.
You can't just assume.
No, you can't cut corners.
That what works in your country is going to work in Germany.
Absolutely not. You have to do your homework.
Do your research.
Get expert advice.
Yeah.
And be prepared.
So if you're listening and you're thinking about expanding to Germany.
Yes.
What should you take away from all of this?
German severance pay.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
It is.
And the stakes are high.
They really are.
Do your research.
Talk to experts.
Yeah, talk to the expert.
Get ready for a different system.
It's a different world.
And if you need help,
yes,
you know who to call.
INS Global.
That's right. INS Global can help.
We've got a team of experts.
Guide you every step of the way.
Every step.
From setting up shop to making sure your HR practices are not just legal, but also culturally sensitive.
That's so important.
So don't try to do it all yourself.
No.
Reach out.
Yeah, reach out to INS Global today.
Let us know about your project.
We can help make your expansion a success.
Until next time, happy expanding.